Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Friday. I love saying that. It's Friday, baby. That's always a great day. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com sitting in with me right now. Brought to you by our good friends at Capello Restaurant here in Bloomington on the square at the former Grazie location. Incredible Italian food. All part of the WOW Network. Make sure you get your WOW Club card. WOW Club members earn exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more directly sent to your mobile phone. Alec, what did I say I wanted to talk about when we came back?
Of the
new faces coming in. CJ Gunn, let me start with him. Dude has shot the lights out this past season in high school. A year ago in the summertime, I believe the coaches told him, brother, you can't average 10 points a game. You got to make it happen. And he took it to heart and started working on that, doing that. And then when he was able to come back to high school late in the season, or not late in the season, but later in the season, this year from an injury, his first game back of the season, 36 points. I was there, 36 points, 18 in the fourth quarter. I think he hit 9 3-pointers in that game. Obviously the dude can shoot. He did that all the rest of the year. That's in high school. Can that translate to college? Because if Indiana has had problems, the biggest problem they've had, well, besides poor hires, has been shooting. Shooting. Is CJ Gunn a guy that's going to be able to come into Indiana and do that on the collegiate level?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think, you can expect the same type of performance as a freshman, though. But, when you look at his kind of projection and the potential trajectory that he could take, he's a guy that fills an immediate need for Indiana, and that's playmaking and ability to create his own shot. And obviously there's going to be a lot of learning curves, right, coming in as a freshman, and especially playing in the physical Big Ten that it is on the wings too. But he's a guy who, with his ability to elevate, we've talked about this before, and get his shot up and off over any kind of defender. That's something that you don't see a lot in the high school game, at least anymore. All right, especially the mid-range game too, where with his ability to take a couple dribbles in a pull up, 15 to 17 feet, and obviously stretching behind the 3-point line where he is so lethal. But yeah, he's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands every single possession in order to create open looks. He's a guy who has done a much better job moving without the ball, I would say, over the last year and a half. And he needed to do that this year, especially if he wasn't on the ball, because defense would swarm him and make life a lot more difficult than it would be last year, the year before, when he was either the second or third option, or even again as a sophomore when he was the fifth option coming off the bench at times too. So he's a guy that I think you look for maybe to have a little bit of a role next year, especially with that ability to shoot. But sophomore, junior, senior year, however long he's going to stay at Indiana, those are the years that I think fans should be most excited about, because you get him in a college system, a system that Mike Woodson needs shooters for, but get him more physically ready for the college game. And I think you're looking at a guy who is vastly underrated, and part of that just goes into the style of play that Lawrence North has, which doesn't showcase, unfortunately, a lot of the skill that they've had over the last few years and a lot of the athleticism that they've had. And then you pair that with his injury the first half of this season, and I think a lot of people kind of forgot about him. But the season that he put on this year, to kind of follow up with the stretch that he had in the playoffs a season ago, I think you build off of that, and fans should be extremely excited to see him down in Bloomington, because he's going to have a terrific career, and he's going to add a lot to Indiana's roster over the next few seasons.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you've got Jalen Hood-Schifino, who 5-star. Of course, his talent is unquestioned, but I said it earlier, I don't want people thinking he's going to come in and score 20 points a game. That's not his game. He plays the point, but he's not necessarily a point guard. He's a 1-2 combo guard. I mean, wouldn't you call him a combo guard?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that up until this year, especially with Sky Clark missing the majority of the season for Montverde, he played a lot more on the ball and really enhanced his ability to make plays for his teammates. Not that it wasn't there before, but definitely
But how
this year
good
he's
was
more
that?
that point guard.
I think that was the best thing that could have happened to Jalen HoodSchifino, because it forced him to be on the ball a lot more often, to give him the potential to do that in college, which will in turn give them the potential to do that at the next level, because that's probably where he's going to be if he makes it to the next level. But watching him during the Geico Championship, man, he had an injured hand, but yet you could not tell it, other than he didn't score. He didn't try to score, but his court vision, and when I went down there and watched him play, that's the first thing that stood out to me, his court vision. I call him the fly, man. He can just see, it's like he sees everything. But I think that's something that Indiana lacked last year. Xavier did a lot of good things toward the end, but it just seems like they were never really in sync. They kind of came together at the end of the year. When I watched Jalen Hood-Schifino, the offense seems to just flow better. He finds guys. So I think that he's going to be a great addition, and I think he starts at the 2 spot next year for Indiana without question.
Yeah, no, exactly. We touched on it the last segment, the ability to have 2 playmakers on the floor at all times, and that's Indiana didn't even have 2 playmakers on the roster last year. So adding that to that starting lineup or any lineup is something that you need. We spend a lot of time talking about Jalen Hood-Schifino, as we should, right? Because he's the kind of spotlight of this class, and going to be a huge part immediately for next season. But another guy kind of looking forward to seeing in this class is Caleb Banks, right? Kind of that hybrid forward that I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, because you have the in-state pull of CJ Gunn, and then you have the 5-star, flashy point guard in Jalen Hood-Schifino. But Caleb Banks is a terrific addition to this class. Obviously has been in this class for a while, so it's not new to the fold here, but a guy who can play both on the perimeter, kind of that hybrid 4 position, kind of a similar type position to Jordan Geronimo, different skill sets, not as athletic, definitely still a very good athlete, but not as kind of crazy athletic that Jordan Geronimo is. But you look at Caleb Banks as a guy who I think could see more of a role next year than a lot of people are really thinking. Really good defender, versatile player, a guy who can, again, play a bigger type of 3 on the perimeter, and still has the ability to knock down some outside shots. By no means is he a knockdown shooter, but can stretch the floor a little bit there too, and brings that versatility of another rebounder, a guy with extreme length and some good athleticism to pair with whoever would be in that front court to whoever would be in that back court. And so if you're looking at playing Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino, that kind of eliminates some of the need for like a true ball handler or third ball handler on the floor, because you're going to have 2 main guys there. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility to play a little bit bigger on the perimeter, because you do have those good backcourt players. Only thing with that is, right, Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino, neither of those guys are really true knockdown shooters. So you need to make sure you kind of level set that with some floor spacing as well. But all in all, I mean, this class I think is going to be really, really good for Indiana, not only next year and immediately, but for the next 3 or 4 years and however long they're in Bloomington.
Yeah, because as Howie, normally he's our comedian, but correctly points out, 10 points. And hell, it wouldn't even have taken that, but 10 points from each of the starting wings. Think of the difference. Hell, 6 points a game or 8 points. If they would have averaged 8 points a game, yeah, that would have been, that's exactly what I talked about earlier. How I agree with you 1,000%. Jason says he believes the NIL will put IU in the driver's seat recruiting against Midwest schools. I believe that as well. I really do. It's got to get to the point. It's just like we talked about earlier.
So I don't mean to jump in there, but the thing about Indiana now is, right, they're not just recruiting, with Midwest schools. That's the old old staff and what they did over the last 5 years.
It's a much more national brand.
Yeah. So while that will obviously definitely impact some Midwestern recruitments, if you're looking at Indiana's recruiting as a whole, right, they're very heavy on the East Coast, right? They're very heavy in the Southeast. Those are kind of their two heaviest spots. And when you look at especially the Southeast, right, obviously a lot of that has to deal with football in the SEC, but the SEC is starting to become a powerhouse, at least in the regular season in college basketball. So they have a lot of money down there and a lot of abilities, right? You look at Kentucky with all their NILs that dealt with either Porsche or Lamborghini or anything like that this season. So they're not to say that Indiana's behind the eight ball, but right, when you look at flashy endorsement deals, I don't necessarily think Indiana has the leg up when it comes to the recruiting that they're doing now, just strictly due to the fact that they're so much more nationally relevant in terms of the guys that they're going after.
Well, and let's be honest. Well, I'll be honest. You had programs like Kansas, Kentucky, Nike being fed by the schools. I mean, schools by the shoe companies. That's why Bill Self is in trouble right now. We'll see what actually happens, but they were just getting fed these recruits. So that doesn't leave my mind very far. Indiana wasn't doing that, and I'm not a homer. If you listen to this show, you know I'm not a homer. But now, do I think that Indiana would have gone down that path had the previous coaching staff still been here? You're damn right I do. I absolutely believe that they would have. And I believe that that's where it was headed. But we're here in the now. Indiana is so far behind. And with the coaching change, you've just got to get through this cycle of out and in. This first out and in cycle, so you can get on a cycle. Although there will never be a regular cycle again, Alec, with the transfer portal and all of that. But and again, don't forget NIL. You cannot require someone to go to. Part of the deal is not that they attend Indiana University or wherever it may be. It's, hey, you have to go do this. You have to go do these public service things. But do not think that the Hoosiers for Good and Indiana University are not locked arm in arm, hand in hand, because that is the exact case. But that's what it has to be. That's how it has to be. Schools can't run them. And you want one that you have trust with and somewhat control of, that you know that there are other NIL collectives out there for IU. But as much as they say, I don't believe that it's done simply for the student athlete. Done for attention. It's done for a lot of other things, but it's also geared in one direction. There's no control. There's nothing, because athletes are allowed to set up deals with whomever. Someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Kenneth, who said, there we go. Nope. Where was it? It was Kenneth, but he said, get a deal to, where was it? Man, I lost it. But get a deal to get Geronimo on the show. Well, if there's a company that wants to pay him to come on here and rep your business, hell yeah. I'm not going to pay him to come on because I don't care. But that's how it should be. A company, they're doing services for the companies. So yeah, make a recommendation, Kenneth. I'd love it. We can have the Geronimo show. Geronimo! That would be his call out.